So I hesitate filming any of this for two reasons. First of all, I don't know if this will work. I know what I have in mind. I've been thinking of this one for years now. If you've been following along, you know that's the center console out of my Suburban, meant for a GMT 400. So it's a much bigger console than these trucks would ever have. These trucks being my little S10. So I don't know if this is going to work. If you're watching it, it did. But the second reason I hesitate to even film anything is this truck has been busted into 3 times. First time, they took a stupid little Pioneer deck I had there, a little $90 simple digital media deck. They took that. They didn't get what used to sit right here was a subwoofer box and the amp because they were interrupted. The second time they got all of it. The replacement deck I had put in there. No, the first deck was an Alpine. Second deck was that little Pioneer. So when they took the second deck, they got that Pioneer, and then they got my Rockford Fosgate amp and subwoofers. So they got all of it the second time. Third time, I think someone was actually trying to steal the truck. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about this little truck. It's a little 30-year-old truck. It means a lot to me, but it's not worth much of anything else out there on the open market. Someone might pay $2,000 for it if it's in decent shape, and this one is. Low mileage, this one is. But I don't know. I hesitate to film anything because if I'm giving away what I'm doing, is it because people see it online that they come after it? Or is it just because there's enough videos on how to break into these things and how to take off with it? I think whoever broke into it, you see I had to replace that. I don't know if they knew how to drive stick. They got in the door, they started cranking at that because they busted off the old one. I had to replace that. And they left it there. And I think it's simply because they didn't know how to get the truck started. They didn't know how to work stick. Anti-theft device for the dumbasses that don't know how to handle old machinery, I guess. But yeah. Basic idea, GMT 400 center console, which always seemed kind of small in the GMT 400 full-size trucks, but in here it looks massive, which means it'll be perfectly sized for me. Where I'm trying to put it in between these two, and listen up good if you're going to ask that question in the comments. I get that question in the comments all the time. Elite 2000 is the name of the seat. I got them from Summit Racing over 20 years ago. Go ahead and look it up yourself. I'm not providing a link. I don't even know. You can probably still get these seats. I don't know. I got them from Summit Racing. Seats and brackets that came with them. All that came from Summit. Go look for it yourself. I'm not answering that question again. But in between these two seats, it looked like there was just enough room. There's not. It's about 2 inches too shy. I have this seat unbolted right now just to see if there's room within the confines of the cab. Really tight right there. I haven't even unbolted this one yet. I can probably get another inch this way because sitting down with it closed in between here and the seat bolster, there's a couple inches, so I could probably move this one an inch. We got to figure that out. And then the rest of the stereo system can go in. Because in these things, you can see the slides right here. There's a tray that would slide out, so the back seat could get to those. I don't need that tray, so I'm going to put my amp down in there, making it harder to get to, harder to steal. Again, I'm giving away my secrets. I don't need this other cup holder, but I don't know. Maybe remove it for airflow, maybe. But that whole opening there is going to give plenty of air to the amp, so I hope. And I've got one of those little tiny amps that is meant for motorcycles and UTVs and stuff. So it should be okay being in a confined space like this. There's plenty of insulation under that floor, under that carpet. So it should be all right. And then I got ideas on other things too, but you'll see that if this actually works. All right, so it disassembles pretty easy. Just a bunch of these little Torx-headed screws. Whole back half comes off, or this little, not half, but back piece comes off, which is good, because that's less cutting I have to do. I need to drop it to the contour of the S10's floor, which means a lot of this needs to come off. And then this will sit down where it needs to, and this will go for the contour that's in there. Since probably don't need those tabs, I'm gonna leave the whole back open because it's not gonna matter. There's no access to it after that. And it's not like I have another GMT 400 to put this back into, so this thing is sacrificial in this experiment. It's pretty funny. One of the times I was doing the doors, I must have put a whole bunch of sound deadening in here. and stuck in everywhere. I did that, I'm sure. Done things I don't remember. But yeah, let's go after that. I'm gonna cut this down probably about to there and just make the cut I need to make it fit in the S10 a little better. And then I'll worry about the seats, because the seats are a whole nother game to play. Just use my little oscillating plunge saw. Lobbed off a whole bunch. Parts and pieces never to go back on. Like I said, this is sacrificial. It's an experiment. If it works, I'm a hero. If not, and then back to the drawing board, which the drawing board is the easier route. Go to the junkyard and find an S10 Blazer console and put it in. And that's probably the easiest way to do. This right though, I have this on hand, have had it for years, have had this idea for years. So I'm gonna try it. Because it's on hand, it's cheaper, it's faster. I don't have to go to the junkyard and go pay for another piece. I might in the end, but some of it is just that. It's just the experimentation that makes it fun. And because you still have all this steel riveted in, it's actually still pretty solid, even without that stuff in the back. Because this piece was just screwed on with 4 screws. Now it's gone. But it still seems pretty solid. It'll work once it's bolted in, I think. Pinned between the seats too. So the biggest consideration is how it interacts here. And do I have plenty of room to get my shifting done? So this position is where it would be most comfortable. Those cuts I made did allow it to sit down better, but I need this out of the way. I have to come up with a different, more flat steel bracket. So I just drill that rivet out, put a flat piece of steel of the same size across, and that'll let it sit down even more because it's got room under there. I think that would be perfect spacing right there for the back. Let's keep experimenting. I don't think that bracket's going to work because I want this placement. It was slanted here a whole lot more. It did drop it down to the end, which is better. It's at a nice armrest height, which is awesome. I think this is going to work. It's just some work to do to get it to work. This is the bracket that would be in a GMT 400 full-size truck. I don't think I'm going to need to use it because I'm simply going to be able to use these holes here and here and just sink some screws in. I am going to be that brutal. I'm just going to screw it down, which means this one has got to go because I need it level from here to here and not this bump up. And that'll settle it down to exactly where I want it. I don't know if I need to cut more here or not. If so, oh well, I will. I'd rather not because that's giving some structure. So if this is enough, that'll be great. Putting the fingers under there, it seems like it. So just a piece of steel to go to replace that. That was kind of entertaining. Trying to drill the rivets out, they just melted their way through the plastic, which is fine because it's the piece of steel I'm going to get in a second here. I'll just rivet it back on, but I'll probably put another hole there, so there'll be 4 rivets holding it. So pretty cool stamped steel bracket the factory comes up with. Not necessary now. All right, there we go. Simple piece of flat steel. I wanted to put 4 rivets in there, but this little cutout is making that somewhat difficult to get to. So just 2. Should be enough. The factory only did 2 on these pieces. There's just a couple holes there so I can get some screws through and get it screwed down to the floor. Again, that's all I'm gonna do is just screw it down. That's the easiest thing to do. Later, if I feel that's a problem, I'd go chase those holes with a drill bit and put bolts through, but I don't think it is right now. Just screw it down. There's not gonna be a whole lot of weight in this thing anyway. And it's just some of the detritus that's in a pickup. It has a nice little storage cubby for it now. All right, let's get to it. All right, there it is. Screwed down with 4 screws. Pretty freaking solid. I'm gonna try not to have to disturb the driver's seat at all and see if just by adjusting the passenger seat I can get what I want out of it. I'm gonna try. But this is bolted down pretty good. And I think it'll do the job. Let me see. Cut there to hit that, I don't know what you call that, the shelf of the structure that's here. It's sitting down pretty good there. And there's space under there. But all back here, plenty of room to do what I want to do with the sound system itself. I don't film a whole lot of what I'm doing anymore because my camera that I used to put on a tripod died. And I don't make enough videos to want to go replace it either. So what I've done here is I've had to slide over the mounting points. These brackets came with these on there, just a chunk of steel with a hole in the thread. I have placed some of these and welded them on where I need the bracket to be. 3/4 of an inch to an inch over, basically. That's all I really needed to get the chair in. So it'll go in now. But yeah, just some of those little all thread connectors. And they are, what are they? They were, I want to say 5/16 by 18, something like that. Just SAE size, whatever Home Depot had. But yeah, just welded them on. This bracket came from Summit Racing, powder coated. And I just put some Rust-Oleum on it. Should be fine in this truck. But yeah, now I can put the seat back. All right, she's bolted back in. Sits just a hair higher. And I don't remember, there's 3 slots in here. I don't remember which of the 3 I'd used before. Right now I'm on the middle one now. Back one, I'm on the top one. But it's in there. Nice and solid. Like I said, sits a little higher. That might be more comfortable for the passenger now. Tempts me to go do that on this one. I forget what I was on there. Yeah, I'm on the middle one there. I could lift that one. And I might when I get to the next stage of this. But now, yeah, I've got a GMT 400 console in an S10. It fits, but I had to move this over. And get all the tools out the way. Still shuts without a problem. There's still going to be probably a hand's width here, in between here and the door panel. Wasn't easy, had to shove it in because it is an interference fit for sure. But because there's space there, got no problem with the seat belts. Let's see. Come in here. We're touching at the armrest, which is fine. Down here, you get full hand space in there, so it's not interfering with the door there. Tight fit, but it should be all right. And that's not even with this leaned all the way back. I got space there. Yeah, there we go. Check that out. It's only a slight little bit of touching there. That'll be okay. Down here, plenty of hand space there. I mean, you're not getting to the side pockets there. Tight fit, but I think it'll be nice. It'll be what I wanted it to be. All right, knee deep into it. Using one of these UTV radios. Nice and small, doesn't take up a whole lot of space. But man, do they put, this is Rockford Fosgate, they put a lot of options on the back side of it for all kinds of things you can do. I'll probably use a handful of them, like the USB input, the different ones to the amplifiers. So, to make sure I got it right, got the Rockford Fosgate wiring diagram, got the S10's radio wiring diagram. And starting to work on it in here. To get that up. Not everybody has these, I guess. A lot of people have the electronic ones with the push button and stuff, but this little pin retainer comes out of here, and that holds on to the stick for the transfer case shift. And then you just pop these off because they have the clips there. But I figured out which of the factory wiring harnesses I'm going to use. The gray and the orange I'm not, because these UTV ones do not have a battery memory. They're just on or off. And so there is not a need for that orange, which is the battery constant hot. And then the gray is a dimmer. This isn't going to dim. It's just going to take the brown, which is just signal that it needs to go to dim mode. It only has 2 modes, bright and dim. Then I got the speaker wires that I'll have to run back down there, but I'm going to take them all back through the dash, under the carpet, and pop it up in here. That little radio is going to fit right in here, and I can cover it. And so anybody looking is gonna say, oh, this truck has no stereo. But here is where the stereo is gonna live. So basically out of the factory harness, I just used the brown, the yellow, and the black. Black is ground, obviously. Yellow is the battery ignition hot. And then brown is that dimmer switch signal. Brown is the convention for anything that has to do with marker lights throughout the entire, like Chevy does that for everything. Both in this S10 and in my Suburban, brown's a convention for those. So just having a brown signal wire goes to the harness on the radio, and it tells it when to dim and when not to dim. It's pretty simple. The factory speaker wires were gone long ago, and there's a whole nother convention for those if you have this sort of truck. You can figure that out. I spent some time with the wiring diagrams because it has been a while since I've actually installed a radio. It's been a while. It's always helpful to have the reference materials. It occurs to me the last time I was in here under the dash and getting the speakers and stuff wired up, I shouldn't have put all the stuff up in there. It should have been down under here. Should have behind the HVAC, because that's where it's gonna have to route. Get there under the carpet and go through. I have to tear all this apart again. It's not very fun with this truck. Full-size trucks are much easier to deal with. This one, not so much. So I got to tear everything apart. So you end up tearing apart all of this just to run your wires back there. It's another reason I like the GMT 400s. GMT 400s are much better to tear apart. These old original 94, 95 S10s, what a pain. So I've got it basically running back there behind the dash, the top of the steering wheel. It's going to come behind the HVAC and then run under the carpet to where I want it. But yeah, everything coiled up here. All my lengths of speaker wire and the radio wires. All right, on back together. Snake it under the carpet and bringing it into here. Not an easy job. So now I have the radio wires ready into this Molex connector, and all the speaker wires ready to go to the amp. And I did mark them yellow for passenger side, white for driver side, just something I can keep a handle on. But yeah, so with this radio, there's just the three wires. There's the dimmer switch, there's the power, the ground, then the fourth wire. I said three, there's four. The fourth wire is going to be a remote turn on for your amplifiers, and I'll put that in a minute. So we're knee deep into the tedious part of this, getting all the wiring done. These little hookups, I've never done this before. I've always used the traditional high power RCA type hookups. This is a low line level input, which means the speaker wires itself go to the amp, and these hook in up there. But they're just straight off the Molex from the radio in the front and back speakers, and that goes to the amp. Kind of a neater and cleaner hookup if everything's all nice and close together like this. RCAs are better at traveling for a distance if you got some distance between your deck and your amp. But yeah, lots and lots of crimping and heat shrinking and everything else, and I am using those kinds of crimp and heat shrink connectors because I don't like putting amplifiers straight down on the carpet. Got some 3/4 inch plywood blocks as risers, so there should be some airflow under it. There's a little bit of dip and divot in there anyway, so should get airflow all around this little brick. And then I have access on both ends to all of the wiring. All right, I don't like the mounting of this because it's just one slot there. I like it when it's in the corners. But we'll see if we can't get this to secure down with just 2 screws like that. It should be all right, especially with those risers helping. All right. It's in there mounted solid. Got all the wires zip tied down. Blue is the remote. All that stuff, if you know what you're talking about. I have the remote going off there to the subwoofer that'll be behind this seat. I have distribution blocks for power and ground. Can you see that one for ground? It's right there. So all of those, there'll be fuses here, and then that main ground wire, or the main power wire, the blue wire you see back there, that goes around to the front of the truck and under the hood within like 6 inches of the, within 6 inches to a foot of the battery, it's got another fuse. So it'll be double fused. Hopefully this fuse here blows first if there's a problem with the amp or the subwoofer. Again, this amp is just the speakers. Next big project is to get this in, because the woofer I'm gonna have to do some stuff too. This whole hard black plastic thing, I'm gonna have to cut it a little bit to make it fit behind this seat, but it will. Tight fit, but it'll fit. That leaves me a little bit of behind the seat storage back there. I need to attach those to the back wall. Lots to do. All right, like I said, UTV. Now, where am I putting this? That's that old CD slot holder. It's funny, you can hold 4 or 5 CDs in there, back in the days when we still did those. There is enough meat in the plastic here to be able to just screw straight in. I just need to pre-drill them neatly. I cut out that little trapezoid there, and all of the lines come through there, and they'll be right where I need them to be. Everything's gonna work out neatly. Now just pre-drill and put some screws in it, and that'll hold it in there. That makes it really easy to pull this out for thieves too. But really easy to pull it out if I need to do maintenance or I want to add anything to it. If I want to change the, I'm not going to cut any of these off. This all comes with all these. I am going to use the USB, the auxiliary. I'm not going to use the antenna. I don't listen to radio. Which one's this one? That's rear side line or sub line out. So the subwoofer is going to hook to this one. That's the auxiliary input, so auxiliary hooks to that one. Front line out, I could do that if the amp had RCAs instead of what it does. But yeah, let's put it together. All right, it seemed like such a great idea. Screws I picked are too big to allow the trim ring to actually fit down on it. But that's minor compared to what really has a problem with is when I set it in there, the knob is too high for the door to close over it. So while this seemed like such a great, easy idea to do, it's not going to work. We'd have to get a little bit more complicated by it. All right, amps are all wired up. Box fits behind the seat just barely. That's a snug fit. I had to cut around here to get it to sit all the way back. Power distribution block and ground distribution block. Screwed those to the back. It's funny, it's just the carpet that it's screwed to, because this is a mass loaded vinyl carpet the factory put in there. Kind of nice of them. Sound mitigation. I have some small RCA cables. Since this is all low level input, I don't think I need anything thicker than these, as they go into the level input there. That'll come out of the back of the stereo, so I'm good to go there. I can still reach and see all of the controls here, so when I want to turn gains up and set it, I've got all that. Still got some storage space back there for different things. Now the last part of this, I'm getting this to work out the way I want it to, so that I can cover that and hide the stereo from prying eyes. Hopefully they look in here and say, oh, it has no stereo. I may do something with that space later, don't know. Ideas, plans, future. But there it all is. Nice and neat in here. Should be plenty of airflow through here to keep all of this cooler. Yeah. All right, here's what we came up with. ABS plastic, 1/8 inch, and built this little tray. Just heated and bent those radiuses. Remember, that takes up about 1/4 inch on those radiuses, so whatever your interior dimensions are, you need to add 1/4 inch either to each bend so you can get where you want to be, and we are where we want to be. I've got a hole cut out for the radio to slip in. I've pre-drilled for the actual screws to go through for the metal backer. Glued a tray on front. You'll see how it works in a second. I need to drill some holes for rivets, and we're going to rivet it in. All right, there we go. Looks like it'd be just a big bottle holder, which could be. But 2 rivets here, 2 rivets here, and it's in there. Closes just fine. It's in there nice and solid. So yeah, now we can put a radio in. All right, it is done. This is back in. We put the port here for a USB and an aux. Hidden nice and neat. I'll fix that in a second, need 2 hands. Radio's right there. That closes nice and neat. So we can hide the stereo and park the truck. That's there, still have plenty of junk back behind that seat. Bass box right there, you totally feel it because the sub's right there. I wonder, can I get away with recording music on this thing without some sort of copyright stripe? I have some stuff that is supposedly copyright free. You hear that, YouTube? It is copyright free. But I don't, there we go.
Holy, 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 eternal Trinity. Sanctus Dominus, Deus Sabaoth.
Now, who knows what your speakers make that sound like? All I know is it sounds pretty good. There's static that comes through here, oddly enough. Then it quits. And I don't know if that has to do with the low line input or what. But what I'm really happy with is those old Alpine speakers I had up here and here. Those are still jamming pretty good. Those are new Rockford Fosgate 6s. 6.5, I forget which size. But they're those. That's it, it worked. A lot of hard work, 3 days worth of going at it. Teaching my little guy how to do a bunch of this stuff. Working with some ABS plastic to make the tray to go in there. It all fits, it's beautiful, it's hidden in here. I like it. So it shows you how you would actually have to go about putting in a UTV radio in your GMT 400 console if you have this console. Or if you're one of the few guys like me that still has an S10 and you want to put this kind of console in, now you've seen the kind of work it takes. I do not know how seats will work if they are the factory seats. It seems to me the factory seats are a little bit wider. But yeah, take all this information as you will, do with it what as you can. Appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.